I'm pretty sure one SpongeBob SquareMan is the subject of a terrifying percentage of all YouTube video essays. So I won't waste your time with an intro spiel that's already been done. Even just saying this feels corny. You know SpongeBob, I know SpongeBob. It's the most certain common ground our generations have. But let me ask you this. When I say the name SpongeBob, what's the first image that comes to mind? Maybe it's a moment from a classic episode, or the cover of a DVD you watched 80 times. Maybe you weren't a SpongeBob household, and I'm assuming my experience is more universal than it is. But the true maniacal brain geniuses among us may picture exactly this, or this, or this. If you were a kid in the 2000s, there's a good chance you're familiar with at least some of these. For nearly a decade, this was the art you would see pasted on cheap merchandise. These images come from the SpongeBob Toolkit, a document Nickelodeon provided to licensees, full of this officially sanctioned clip art, along with things like fonts and guidelines for use of the character. This is a pretty technical document which wasn't meant to be seen by the public, but they still fill a lot of empty space with these fun things for kids, like trivia about the animal each character is based on, instructions to make your own Krusty Krab hat, a snail-based recipe, what to do if you get stung by a jellyfish. Meat Tenderizer breaks down the stinger toxins and provides some pain relief. It also makes you more appealing to vampires and cannibals. It's funny how there's all this waxing poetic about protecting the integrity of the character. Like, guys, we're really building something here, based in Steven Hillenburg's vision. And then the example products they show are so ass. He doesn't... SpongeBob doesn't say that. There were tons of little supplements to this document too, and they're full of similarly awesome bad ideas. A personal favorite is the photo reel style guide from 2005. Jokes that play off of events from the show can be even funnier when life imitates art. They say this image isn't really comedic, but they failed to consider that it's fucking cool. I would love to see this guy in my city. I love these girl palettes from 2007. I think I have some stickers of these designs that must be old enough to drive. And there are more rare alternate styles from the mid-2000s. Some of them are lame, but a few of them are pretty fun, like these adorable SpongeBob designs. But my favorite has to be this style. Squidward and Patrick are so cute here. SpongeBob is gamer, and he on phone. I've never seen any merch with these designs in the wild, but if they did some limited promotion bringing them back, they could probably get like $30 out of me. The 10th anniversary style guide has some cool Frutiger Metro design if you're into that sort of thing, but hopefully the cover of this one helps illustrate why I'm keeping this video's focus very narrow. Do you really want to hear about this ugly painted style they switched to for the 2010s? It's all F tier. They already did a big branding refresh around 2005 or so, and I don't really vibe with these SpongeBobs either. The enshittification was honestly trickling in even earlier. You can tell these aren't being made with love anymore when they don't bother to make Patrick's eyelids purple. No hate to whoever designed these, but all of the really good stuff is in the 2002 toolkit. It's also coincidentally the easiest to find these in high quality, so in the interest of respecting your time and mine, we're only gonna review what's in here. I'm sure a few people will be devastated that this isn't comprehensive, but I assure you, dear audience, we're still about to smoke the whole pack. There's like 200 assets to get through. Also, can we agree to just sit out these surfing and snowboarding ones? These are so cynically far removed from the character that nobody cares, right? Yeah, get the fuck out of here. I'm by no means a professional artist, so my ranking of these will inevitably be very subjective and vibes-based. Knowing my exact taste in cartoon poses will offer some deep insight into a stranger's psyche. If I make a severe lapse in judgment, sound off in the comments. Honestly, the tier list is kind of just a framing device to deliver weird trivia. Also, I've been calling my source for these the 2002 toolkit, but that just means it's the 2002 revision we have access to. Many of these assets were already being used in things like books and commercials as early as summer 2000. I wish I could tell you more about the people who drew these, but the toolkit itself is unsurprisingly vague on this point. I guess the serial numbers being filed off is like the whole deal here. These people deserve praise for their work, and I'm sure there will be someone in the comments who can ID some of these styles. But to give you a taste of things to come, even within this seemingly unified corporate SpongeBob art style, there are some pretty disparate approaches, and I think the moment I could put names to commonalities, it would be very easy to start picking favorites. So we'll just review each piece on its own merits and see what patterns emerge. With all of that housekeeping out of the way, let's get into the list. SpongeBob 1. This is nothing mind-blowing, but a versatile and charming first effort. B tier. Number 2 is our first pose that also exists in 3D. Here's a figurine based on it from 2003. I'm a little sad this is the second one, because it's too early to make a joke about e-begging at patreon.com/somefeatures. Anyway, she's so cute in this one. S tier. I'm sure the numbering of these is completely random, but I like that they aren't front-loading the marketable smiling SpongeBobs. We're getting some angry ones in the mix too. Here's an excruciatingly 2003 t-shirt that uses this pose. Despite what I just showed you, I like this one a lot, A tier. I always associated this one with the movie, probably because of the video game tie-in. Here's a fun and funny fact about this game. The early cutscenes use screenshots from the film, but it seems like, at a certain point, work on the game outpaced work on the film, because they run out of finished animation and have to stitch shots together out of concept art and stock poses like these. It's so odd. Anyway, I don't like this one. This is American Kirby SpongeBob, D tier. Whenever I see this one, I think of that abandoned SpongeBob ride. It's such a bad pose to use in that context. Tim Bob Fuck Pants? There are much better drawings here that get across a similar idea. This one is unremarkable and also just kind of odd, D tier. You can also find a weird pillow based on this pose. I had a blanket with this pose on it as a kid, but the tactile sense nostalgia isn't enough to sway my opinion. He has these huge pupils in this one, which typically make a character look cuter, but it doesn't really work for SpongeBob because you still have to draw the blue iris around it, so it kinda just looks off. I'm sorry, but this is another D tier. You can actually see that they modified this one to make his eyes more normal in a few cases. Not sure what's up with this fish though. I also noticed a lot of these old toys and trinkets have the phrase "really works" on their packaging, which is a funny limp selling point. Anyway, now we're back to the good shit. This is a solid B tier. 8's pretty similar, so it goes in B too. They each have their own appeal, but there's nothing more to say about them really. I can hear 9 saying hi to me. This is a curious guy who wants to communicate. A tier. Oh, that's why his arm looked like that in 5. He's holding the window open. That makes so much more sense. I like when these use a recognizable prop from the show. It feels like killing 2 clams with 1 stone. B tier. 11 is great. I like how his body has this dimensionality to it, but the limbs are intentionally very stiff to sell his, squareness. It's a pretty inspired angle for one of these, and it captures the show's spirit nicely. A tier. I'm pretty torn on this one. I kind of hate it, but I like how fucked up it is. It's a net positive that they were allowed to get away with this, so we'll put it in C tier, for harm reduction or something. Bizarrely, there's a plush toy based on this pose. It's also featured prominently on this 35mm camera. It's pretty cute in the context of him smiling for a photo. 13 seems to be adapted from this shot in the episode Jellyfishing. This one's kinda oversaturated. It's very easy to use very lazily. It's so like he's showing off the logo of the cereal you're eating, but I do think it's one of the better poses for that use case. High B tier. Okay, this one's strange. It seems like this pose is supposed to be SpongeBob petting Gary or building a sandcastle or something, but there's no indication of what to pair it with. There's also a variation of this where he's on his knees, which makes more sense. It has a little more space to put something, but I still wouldn't know what to do with this. I might just leave this off the list because I feel like I'm missing something. This is an aggressively neutral pose. There's nothing wrong with it, but it kind of defies being used in a unique or interesting way. Sorry buddy, you're going in C. No thanks. D tier. There's something about this pose that makes him look like he's a comic character that's existed since the 70s, like Garfield or something. I like it. I don't remember seeing this one too often because it is kind of a weird drawing, but that gives it an endearing underdog quality. B tier. This is one of the most common poses you'll see on old merch. It was used as a generic tag for a lot of items. It's pretty generic, but it actually seems to be based on this frame from the episode Opposite Day. It's a close enough match that it's probably not a coincidence, but it's funny to imagine a bunch of designers chain smoking in their office, pausing the episode and studying it like, that could work. There's also a version of this one with glasses I've seen a few times. Whoa, Nickelodeon U-frames are available at Sears Optical. It seems like the extent of this promotion was this lenticular case, but what's freaky about this is that it lets you see in real time how they need to change the construction of his face for the glasses to make sense. His eyes are touching in the original art, so they need to imply this extra strip of flesh for them to sit on. You'll also see these turned into 3D glasses on occasion. This pose is also the basis for a few SpongeBob statues, which is a subject that warrants its own video. Trust me, this is not a line of inquiry you want to go down without prep time. This is one of the more striking generic ones, but that doesn't preclude it from being a generic one. Let's give it a high B tier. While we're in Tangent City, 21 gets used for one of the oddest things I found for this video. No meditation on r/liminal 2000s kidcore capitalism would be complete without a mention of the SpongeBob mac and cheese. But did you know that in 2002 there was a rare version where the cheese sauce was blue? I had no idea this was a thing. It doesn't even come up in Pat Mac's SpongeBob Foods video, which is like the authority on this type of thing. Statistically, there's probably someone watching who's nostalgic for it, so please let us know about the cognitive dissonance of eating blue Kraft in the comments. Anyway, it's becoming apparent that one generic SpongeBob face was used as a base for a lot of these, so I'm feeling justified in needing something to impress me. But I do like the implication that he's frolicking through some high grass here, so it's enough to land this low in B tier. This is very close to 8, but it's not like it's worse or anything. B tier. This SpongeBob is calling me a word I'm allowed to say, but not on YouTube. It makes me smile every time I see it, so it's S tier. I don't like Squint Bob. I don't really think of SpongeBob as laughing like this. D tier. You can get an ugly cake topper based on this pose. 25 is pretty generic, but it's one of my favorite bare bones default poses. It's similar to 23 where it's fun to let your mind wander and imagine all the horrible things he could be saying. High A tier. There's a pretty cool snow globe based on this pose. A second fun fact about this one is that I think it sucks, F tier. This one also sucks, F. This one's marginally better. I like that he's innocently enjoying himself. It's a begrudging C tier. This is definitely the best one of this stretch because you get a little extra aquatic theming in there. This is a non-begrudging C tier. 30 has zero charm. His face is just weirdly plain here, which draws attention to how stiff the rest of the drawing also is. This just isn't my friend. F tier. 31 is a pretty niche reference to the show. I like the deep cut, but I don't know what the use case for this would be. I think this helps contextualize how early into the show's production they were making these. Decades later, Plankton possessing SpongeBob isn't a moment that gets memed all that often. This isn't even really the joke in this scene I would go for. But I guess before, Band Geeks existed, this was one of the more memorable episodes. This is cool from a fan perspective, but it isn't really anything from a usefulness of this stock art perspective. Best I can give you is C tier. 32 is basically the same, but this one is so freaky and out there that I kind of see the appeal a little more. And there's still merch based on this pose from pretty recently, but I don't know, I don't really want this in my house, so C tier. I guess someone liked this one enough to make toys based on it. You'd be forgiven for assuming this art was made for the toys and not these toys were made for the art, but like all things in this video, the more fucked up one is true. I don't recall him ever making a face like this in the show. Put those things away. D tier. 34 to 38 are all part of a cycle. Remember when Bubbles' SpongeBob catchphrase, he brought it around town and did the thing? Much like 31 and 32, this is a very specific reference to the show with a severely limited use case, but I'm incredibly charmed that they went for this. It's kind of a power move. I'm just gonna use 36 to represent the whole pack so I can feel okay putting this in A tier. There's some beautiful childlike wonder to this one. He loves Bubble. That hand is drawn kind of weird, but I don't care. A tier. This one's pretty iconic, very 2000s. I like the perspective here. This might be tough with 2 Fs, but it's going in B tier. I think my audience is more Sonic Adventure pilled than I am, so I'm expecting some pushback. Don't get me wrong, it's great, just not what I come here for. I found a cake pan based on this pose, but they changed both of his eyes to be open. There's a ton of these on eBay. I thought about buying one to show you what the cake looks like, but it quickly became apparent this is a fucked up rabbit hole I'm not ready to go down. That'll be like grandma bonus content on Patreon in 50 years. This one's obscure but versatile. Maybe he's throwing a frisbee, or he ran ahead and is making sure Patrick is keeping up. A tier. This one isn't bad. It seems kind of underutilized, I don't recall seeing it often, but I can sort of understand because it feels like a notch between a couple other more striking ones. B tier. 43 is taken from the Christmas episode. They didn't have to include the helmet, I like that they did. I really want to like this one, but it's not totally connecting. I feel like I would meet and queen out with her, but it would only take 1 week in the group chat to realize she's just a little crazier than me. Another B tier. I know it doesn't matter, but the numbering here is really baffling to me. Why is this default pose buried so deep in the middle and not like number 1? I have this as a sticker in my phone. I'll respond to texts with it sometimes. I can't really argue it has anything going for it, but I like seeing my friend SpongeBob enough for it to narrowly escape C tier. I think I just don't like when he squints like this, but this one is enough of a necessary evil that I'll put it in C and not D. I'm not unreasonable, guys. This expression is pretty commonly used for toys and the like. There's also a weird modified version of it on this design. My favorite use of this one is on this box of chocolate bars. I can't lie, that is me when I eat all the chocolate. These chocolate bars also have a rare and lovely appearance from 1999 Squidward. If you want to buy this box, it's only a reasonable... This one pushes the cuteness a little too far. I don't think of classic SpongeBob as being cloying like this. D tier. You can find this one in toy and DVD cover form. I was never super into this episode, but it seems like they were proud of it, so it's nice to see it get some rep here. Inoffensive C tier. But I'm not sure why we also got 49. SpongeBob ripping his pants isn't really something he just does, it's from this episode. So why change his outfit to work in more settings? This isn't making anyone happy. F tier is too harsh, but it doesn't have a good reason to exist, so D tier. 50 is great, he's pissed. I think this is a really good unamused expression for SpongeBob as a character. I can totally believe he would show up at the function smiling as usual and then suddenly hit this face when someone he doesn't like walks by. A tier. My headcanon is that 51 is SpongeBob at the same party, 3 goofy goober Sundays deep, struggling to keep up with the conversation. This one's A tier as well. There's a toy from like 2009 that uses this face, so this joins the club of poses you can have in your home. This is getting out of hand, right? I feel like I'm repeating myself every time one of these that's a reference comes up, but there's just weirdly little to say about these. Do you like the episode? Then you'll probably like this. Does it look good on a t-shirt? No, not really. I'm feeling like a high C tier maybe. 53 is just the same thing without the outfit, and it might be super hypocritical after I slammed this one for the same thing, but there's a much better argument for having this one separately, I think. I like the pose on its own a lot. This one was also used as a generic tag for plush toys and the like for a while, which leads to this upsetting coincidence. The tag of this hall monitor toy uses the hall monitor pose in its non-hall monitor form. This is like fucked up, right? Anyway, B tier. Here's a nice little jumping or floating pose. You can see it here in this Christmas ornament from 2002. It's cute but not super interesting, so maybe a C. The Fall 2004 style guide suggests some fun quotes that can be paired with this pose. Did you ever hear the one about Krusty Krab? How big was it? Anyway, D tier. The bow tie is an inspired choice, though. This one's good. I like the squishiness of those eyebrows. B tier. The hat is a nice touch. I like the specificity that this is some sort of kitchen emergency. Their proportions are slightly weird, but who cares? I'm not the cops. A tier. 59 through 61 are all more images of SpongeBob freaking the hell out and panicking. I don't like seeing my guys suffer, so I don't have a lot to say on these, but all of them are great. Solid B tiers. I found a t-shirt from 2002 that recontextualizes this pose to make it look like he's surfing, which is super cute. Another A tier. Here's a very ugly toy based on 64, but the original art is lovely. I know I'm giving these A tiers out like candy, but this section is just cleaning up. Speaking of which, here's 66.
Look, Mr. Krabs, alien bars!
B tier. 67 and 68 are both variations of SpongeBob sitting on this bubble. The pose in 67 is a little more dynamic, but 68 looks a bit comfier. It's kind of like 67 is the studious academic workday and 68 is the earned rest after. These both capture the carefree spirit of this weird little yellow guy that everyone should try to embody. I think these fall just shy of A tier, but know that they touched my heart. Now here's an absolute stone cold classic. This is shooting straight into S tier. Do I even need to explain myself? I do think the wand being gray and not purple like in the show loses some points, but who cares? I'm not the cops. I'm not the hugest fan of this tongue out expression we get in a few of these, but the painting is so cute. A tier. 71 continues the trend of being absolutely adorable. One can only assume he's pointing out Annoy Squidward Day. A tier. But this one is a downgrade in every way. The card could be blank so SpongeBob can tell me that Brillo pads are 98 cents, but he's still advertising the Krusty Krab, so I don't get why he doesn't have his hat. That kinda makes it just not as satisfyingly balanced as 71. Not terrible on its own, but a C tier by virtue of being redundant. This might be another S tier. The Krusty Krab hat is kind of an instant charisma boost. I thought about using this one in the thumbnail, but the amount of props floating around makes it kind of cumbersome to work with, which I imagine like 500 other people have independently discovered. So SpongeBob licensees 20 years ago, beware, I guess? After the monotony of smiling SpongeBob 25, I'm really appreciating all of the fun props here. There's a nice contrast between the unicycle bending and his arms stiffly balancing. I like it a lot artistically, but maybe just B tier. We all know the episode this one is based on. It stands on its own better than some of the other reference-based ones we've seen, but I don't love the face here. Maybe a C tier. This is a good design on its own, but I can't really remove it from the context Nickelodeon suggests, which I don't like. I'm gonna close my eyes and put it in B. There are multiple ugly as fuck toys based on this pose. The hat's design makes it clear that this is a reference to the season 1 episode, but this is such season 3 ass art that it doesn't really read that way. And I don't know if generic pirate SpongeBob does anything for me. D tier, but I would feel bad delivering the news. This is another sideways glance at something that happens in the show. C tier, but it did give me this strange picture. I love the scary, stylized eyes shrinking thing the show does on occasion. It's so odd, but it just kind of works. I'm happy to see it represented in one of these. It's funny how stiff his lower body is to contrast the meltiness of his head. I think this is an A tier, and so is this next one. I love how huge the reef blower is compared to his body. On some of these, you'll see props sharing colors that are already on the character for printing efficiency, but the clam here is a slightly different shade of pink from his tongue. Weird. 82 has some fun stylization. I love the eyes and how his mouth isn't entirely square. Another A tier. If you ran in the same circles as me, there's a chance you might associate this art with Spongepedia, the primary source of SpongeBob misinformation before the advent of the fandom wiki. It was so great. Basically every page struck the "they swore on regular show" vein, if you know what I mean.
There was a deleted scene in this episode of SpongeBob falling in a pit while trying to chase the bus and is eaten by blood animals. This scene was removed possibly due to gore or other reasons.
I kinda just assumed the site would be cleaned up a little if it was even still online. So imagine my joy when it only took one click to find this brilliant diamond of a paragraph.
SpongeBob is one in a long line of cartoons that is designed to appeal to adults as well as children. Part of the show's appeal has to do with the childlike nature of SpongeBob and his best friend, Patrick Star, both of whom are adults but display an innocence typical of human children. However, the characters are not immune from more adult avocations, including rock musicianship in a stadium performance, reminiscent of a hard rock concert.
On the list of guest stars, full of lovely broken photo bucket links, John DiMaggio's bio uses the word Madagascar, as in the penguins of, no less than 4 times. You may know that alternative rock band Ween contributed the song Loop De Loop to the show, but did you know that the brothers Ween met in their 8th grade typing class? And did you know that the class was taught in the basement of the old section of New Hope Silbury High School by teacher Barbara Slack? At the time, the electronic typewriters were considered state-of-the-art. They were replaced by IBM x86s within 2 years. Oh dude, this is so awesome. Anyway, the site unequivocally kind of ate using SpongeBob 83 as their logo. I never would have thought about it before making this tier list, but this is kind of the best case scenario for a piece of stock art like this. No matter how cute it is, I can only be so wowed by another drawing of SpongeBob vaguely gesturing at something. This one conveys a specific action, but it's still versatile enough for many use cases. If you're making a SpongeBob book or unauthorized fan site, this is a slam dunk. This is honestly a sleeper S tier. Also, I love SpongeBob's gay little reading glasses, but holding off on them here was the right move. 84 and 85 are both Valentine's Day edits of existing poses. Lovely, but a little derivative, so these are C tiers. My only hope is that this is you watching this video. Just like my channel, this one's a dependable B tier. 87 and 88 are 2 variations on the same art with and without a Christmas hat. It's kind of funny that this specifically has to be SpongeBob excited to open a present. I just find these a little much. D tier. 89 was probably super useful for like games, he looks ready to defend the Krusty Krab. I don't know, I'm not that charmed by it on its own. D tier. 90 makes more sense. I'm happy to have the Mermaid Man representation. B tier. This is a weird one. It uses a different palette for the Mermaid Man costume, and he doesn't have the starfish on his nose. It feels like its natural habitat is like video game box art. It's objectively kind of mid, but I'm fascinated by it. So B tier. Here's an evil plush toy based on this pose. He's flying into C tier. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just not super interesting. 93 has a lovely little piece of design. The hat is bouncing off his head to convey how hard he's dancing, but it being detached from him means it can easily be erased if you need to put this pose in a different context. Once you notice that, it's cool they bothered to include it at all. It kind of implies that he's annoying Squidward at work. It seems like this face entered the generic SpongeBob expression index at some point, but I'm not really sure why. It works best here. This one's just really charming. High A tier. Imagine hanging out with SpongeBob and he makes this face and you kind of laugh along, but you wonder if you should have told him it was fucked up after. D tier. These are based on the episode Survival of the Idiots, which might be the deepest into the show pull we have so far. The squash and stretch run cycle is a really fun concept, and I'm glad these were included, but there's kind of only so much you can do with them, so maybe C tier. This is adorable, and I'm very glad it was included here. A tier. I was delighted to learn there's a rare soap dispenser based on this one, but it's not nearly as cute. They fucked him up bad. This one has a similar energy to a lot of the bubble ones where he's just a little guy marveling at the world. There's a fun sense of adventure here. High B tier. This one gets some points for effort on the pose, but it's kind of ambiguous where the jellyfish is actually stinging him. This one's fine, it's not doing anything for me. I don't know, C tier. The flat simplicity of this design is pretty appealing. I like the wavy limbs contrasted with the square body. I think this one is objectively pretty good. I just don't vibe with it super hard, so like a low B tier. They made a toy based on this pose you can stick to your car window, like the Garfield one. That's a neat bit of obscure merchandise. I like the jellyfishing representation, but the expression is a little sterile. D tier. I think this one is on the more valid, charming end of tongue out Bob. Still C tier, but like, you know, pretty good. Now this expression is sterile in the way I like. It's only due to my unchecked bias that this reaches B tier. It's just a vibes thing. 106 is kind of just a setup for 107, which is obviously going in S tier. Come on, this is great. Unfortunately, 106 doesn't really stand on its own, and I don't think it's necessary for 107 to work, so it gets left behind in C. I love this one in sentiment, but I don't think it comes together. C tier. This one comes with specific instructions to use its head when SpongeBob's likeness fills the entire product. A cool use of this one is on the first SpongeBob CD from 2001, where his face fills most of the cover but it's at an angle. I actually wish this was a tiny bit more zoomed out because the waviness of the arms could imply sound waves or dancing. This pose doesn't stand on its own at all, but it feels the least meant to stand on its own, so I'm just gonna flip a coin and put it in C. There are plenty of toys based on this one. This is actually a reference to the show I had forgotten about. A cute little B tier. Hell yeah, this one's so cute. A tier. Check out this use of it on this clock from 2004. If you could use images on YouTube, I would respond to all of your comments with this. A tier. I'm gonna have to put the more generic Muscle Bob at C tier just to balance things out, but here's a good picture I found while researching. While 3 of these might be a little excessive, this one's my favorite, A tier. This one doesn't really feel like SpongeBob, so I think it's kind of an automatic C or D, but it is responsible for this S tier photo I found while researching. This, however, is great. It's kind of strange how such a tiny change can go such a long way. B tier. This one has weird proportions all around. I'm all for stylization, but it's not stylized enough to not just look off. D tier. 126 is the same thing without the karate gear, so it doesn't even have the recognition factor. F tier. However, I'll immediately contradict myself and say that 127 looks a little better without it than 128. I'm gonna go C and D respectively. I liked this one as a little preview thumbnail, but blowing it up to full size, it's a pretty unappealing drawing. C tier. Now we're finally through the SpongeBobs, woo! Now we just have the entire rest of the cast to get through. The group poses folder has a few that are just SpongeBob and another character, so we'll hit those on the way. These poses are meant to be leaning on a railing, but the toolkit doesn't include any kind of railing asset. It says to draw your own. So I've seen designs ignore that and just use this anyway as a weird limp-wristed Patrick, leaning forward in anticipation, balancing on nothing. There's also a pose that's just this without the railing. I don't know, B tier? This one is very cute. I don't love these flatter designs or this way of drawing SpongeBob's face, but Gary is enough to elevate this to A tier. Group 6 is an absolute banger. There's so much joy in SpongeBob's expression, and Gary just could not care less. This deeply understands the pet owner experience. S tier. Group 7 is another stone cold classic. I love how much Patrick looks like a Muppet here. There's a novelty lawn sprinkler based on this pose, but a lot of the drawing's charm gets lost in translation, I think. It's a bit more intact on this Christmas ornament, which is a fun variation. It's another S tier, followed by yet another indisputable classic. Just look at this and tell me it's not awesome. S tier. Closing out the rare and dangerous ×4 S tier combo is this pose, pulled from the season 1 episode Jellyfishing. This one is adorable. They're trying to build Dude Mountain and failing. This was an easy decision, S tier. I think this might be the single deepest cut in this video. I don't think I've ever seen this before. It makes sense since it's seasonal, but it's wonderful. Using the same dark red as the swirl on Gary's shell for these flowers really ties the piece together. Can you imagine how much worse this would be if the reds were brighter? Maybe it's just the novelty speaking, but I think this is an A tier. This one also comes in ornament form. This is a good win-win. It's a reference to a specific episode, but it works great out of context for like pitching the franchise to investors. I love how weird the drawing of Plankton is, another S tier. But it's kind of odd to have that between these two Christmas ones. I love, love, love the line art of this one, and those jellyfish ornaments are adorable, but there are some strange coloring choices here. That sand on the ground is like weirdly ugly. I like the addition of Gary to this shirt using it. God bless us everyone indeed. It also comes in pants form. Let's say B tier. Gary looks as fatigued as I do making this video. This one is fun, but it has less of the season 1 nostalgia factor the other Gary ones do. C tier. These might be some of the most baseline, strictly on model drawings of the characters in here, but I can't say they're not fun. B tier. Now on to Patrick, opening with a solid debut. Nothing too flashy, but promising. B tier. This is how I'm trying to be this summer. Go off, King, give us nothing. I think this falls just shy of S tier into A. It just has a little bit of that like kids menu clip art factor that puts me off a bit, but it's really good. This one is clearly meant to complement SpongeBob 15, so it suffers from the same problem of being pretty generic, but the star stance works a lot better for Patrick, so I'm gonna say B tier. This is the only Patrick jellyfishing pose included here, which feels like a bit of an oversight. If you want this as a physical item, you can get these weird shoelace bows. Like the last one, this is nothing special, but it's a bit more lively than the SpongeBob pose it's meant to complement. B tier. This guy is capital C chilling. This just feels like summer. Straight into S tier. For every male wife Patrick, there's a fail wife Patrick. This expression is absolutely perfect. You can tell that he's so disappointed, but he's about to get in line for another one. I wonder if this is his fault, or if the structural integrity of the Krabby Patty should be questioned. You can see this one in 3D on this clock. Another easy S tier. This is a very slight variation of the first Patrick, but I think it's just a little worse. The posing on his legs is just kind of awkward. You can see it in 3D here. C tier. This pose is taken from the episode Valentine's Day. You can see the character model from that episode here. A tier. This Patrick knows a lot about head injuries. I'm not the biggest fan of this drawing. C tier. I'm sure this Patrick gets told he gives good hugs, but it's true, and it brings to mind one of my favorite episodes, but it's not actually based on that one. This is instead referencing the season 1 episode Boating School. But it doesn't actually matter because merchandise associates this pose with the other episode anyway. I'm not really sure what this does to its rating, so to be safe, let's put it in A tier. This is another example where I wasn't really vibing with the SpongeBob pose this corresponds to, but I think Patrick wears it way better. This guy means business. To be fair, it's more closely based on a scene from the show, but I think on its own merits, this is a solid B tier. I think the same principle as the squash and stretch SpongeBobs apply here. It's a cool idea, but kinda hard to use. Maybe like B tier just on principle. This one's a little CalArts for my tastes, but I'm happy to have the Barnacle Boy rep, C tier. This, though, is just fucking useless, F tier. But if you disagree and want to give this guy a home, you can find him in silver Monopoly token form. This last Patrick is a good guy. Not much to say, but I like how innocently proud of himself he is here, B tier. And that's it. I was struck by how few Patrick poses there are here. I've seen a few used in late 2002 and 2003 that seemingly just barely missed the cutoff for inclusion here. I like these, but maybe not enough to attempt a rescue mission right now. We'll just label them as dubiously canonical.
Yeah, Squidward. Yeah, Squidward.
Whenever I tried to draw these characters as a kid, I always found Squidward the hardest. It's a pretty high-risk, high-reward design. He only has 13 poses, so let's see how well they made them count. Squidward 1 is a promising opening. They captured his essence well. The smug, satisfied smile is the right way to go. I'm feeling an A tier. This is probably one of the most iconic ones that I don't especially care for. Don't worry, I know I can't go lower than B. I've just known too many guys who look like this. Does your cat want a toy based on this pose? You can get that. This one's perfect, no notes. I like how the jellyfish is placed off to the side, so it's like an optional little addition. A tier. I love the vibe of this one, but I'm not sure if the drawing itself gets all the way there for me. I think it's something about the shape of his head, or maybe what his mouth being open like that does to the shape of his head. B tier. Even though he's playing the clarinet, this is one of the best abstract renditions of the guitar face I've ever seen. The musical notes in the bubbles is an inspired choice. This one just owns S tier. You can tell Squidward 6 uses Squidward 1 as a base. I love the palette they chose for his palette. A tier. The thick outline on his head/mouth area is especially satisfying here. Lots of good shapes going on. I'm gonna say this is an A tier, but for Squidward, I'm really using A as like S-. This one's a personal favorite. I think the guitar face turned cooking face does a lot for me. The little island is so delightful, that's so cute. An instant S tier. I was waffling on whether to put this in S or A, which I guess implicitly makes it just an A tier, but a very strong one. I had always interpreted this one as him just looking straight ahead, but seeing it this big, it kind of seems more like he's shooting a glance to the viewer. I like that ambiguity. Let's all take the Squidward number 9 challenge. Comment down below where you think his cold gaze falls. This is a notably good Squidward head shape. I like how huge the hat is. The rings on the notepad are super cute. I'm basically only putting this in A because I don't want to be too generous with the S tiers, but this one's really good too. There's a Super 7 figure based on this pose, I think. It's like a loose adaptation, it has the same props. This one's just perfect. It's an uncommon pose we don't really see other characters in, but it has some versatility, while also being kind of just hard as fuck. At least as far as these things go. It's going in S. I like the body a lot, but I kinda hate the head here. His pupils are way too small. Even though it's kind of the same expression, it feels so much worse than the other Squidward running one. C tier. By this point, I was looking for excuses to put this in A, because his batting average seemed suspiciously high, but this one has everything. Low poly name tag, perfectly dialed in forehead creases. Look at this tentacle dog, that's how I look typing. Maybe I'm just in a good mood writing this section, but S tier. So, is this a safe space to admit that I don't fuck with Sandy that much? I know she's the girl, which I assume is why she's so well represented for merchandise here, but as a the girl myself, I identify much more with SpongeBob. Her character tends to lead the show away from the elements that I latch onto as an adult. Basically what I'm saying is, this show for 8-year-olds is bad because it didn't anticipate me being 28 years old. Also, because she wears this big diving suit, there's not as much specific body language to compare as there is with other characters, so I'm gonna go a little out of sequence so I can say more interesting things about the samey ones. If you take umbrage with this editorial decision, you should make your own tier list and put these all in S for Sandy. I don't know how good this is in the context of SpongeBob merchandise, but I will concede that this would go hard as fuck if it was part of some lesbian furry art that my friends were liking on Blue Sky, so it evens out to a solid B tier. This one's a lovely little pose, but the dead-eyed smile is a little too vacant for me to say this is literally me. Like a high C tier, maybe. She never does anything like this in the show, so it feels pretty cynical. Like, we need more characters for our beach party product line. D tier. We love a queen who's scheming a little. The tree dome palette implies that she's in her element, or maybe the diving suit would just constrain this movement too much for it to read well. B tier. This fuck-ass pose. Having any character other than SpongeBob do a look at what I'm showing you gesture kinda feels wrong. He shouldn't be making his friends shill things with him. There's a posable action figure based on this one. Doesn't look all that posable to me. I've been trying to avoid this, but this concept pisses me off so much that the original art takes a hit from it. C tier. I like the prideful stance on this one a lot, good tail acting. B tier. Oh, this is so cute, and I can confirm this is what it's like. A tier. This one's good for her character, there's not much to say about it. B tier. This one's great. It projects the same innocent fun feeling as SpongeBob riding the jellyfish. A tier. Sandy's 10 and 15 have this quality too. It kind of presents a version of this character who just wants to run around in a grassy field all day, which I can respect. 15 in particular is taking her first curious baby steps into the world. I'll put 9 in A and these two in B. I like this one a lot in concept, playing up how the diving suit is like a spacesuit, but the perspective is just kinda weird, so I don't know if I'm sold on it. C tier. This one must have been such a boon for every SpongeBob joke book to ever grace the shelves of Goodwill. I know she's supposed to be leaning back laughing, but like the last one, the perspective is kinda strange. It kinda looks like her chin is on the wrong layer or something. C tier. I guess this is the designated neutral pose, which makes the slight angle they went for kind of interesting. It's good for a character bio or something, and I think you could make this look cool if you tried for a while, but it's pretty plain. C tier, but a C tier I like a bit more than the last C tiers. I wish there was some cute art of like SpongeBob playing guitar to complement this. B tier. The lasso is a good idea, but she's hitting the pirate SpongeBob expression, which I just do not find appealing at all. D tier. I'm a fan of the stylization here. The body and pose are pretty rigid, so the tail provides a nice contrast. A tier. This one's great. They chose the cutest way to draw her eyes being closed. I wish some of the others took more cues from this one. A tier. This one might be my favorite. They have the right idea with leaning into how stiff and awkward the suit is, but making her very expressive to compensate. Unfortunately, I'm still not sure if this one cracks S tier, but they put up a good effort. A tier. I like how her angry eyebrows have a like realistic gross animal skin fold, but that's about it. D tier. This one's similar. She's so weirdly lanky here. It really isn't taking advantage of what I find interesting about her character design. D tier. This also applies to 24, but this is a fun, unique activity, so I'll put it in C. With seconds left on the clock, rigid angular 1999 Sandy makes a comeback. A tier. The final Sandy is a fitting note to go out on. She's blowing the smoke off her hands, ready for more. B tier. Overall, not a terribly impressive showing from Sandy. I think her art has the most immediate divide between different artists and different micro eras of the show, and the best ones just highlight everything boring about the others. On to Mr. Krabs. I think this one is an inarguable stone cold classic. When you hit this pose at the function, everyone knows what you stand for. This ascends straight to S tier. I think some of the MTV 90s Rocco DNA of his character design is on display here, but he also has a CalArts bean mouth, a combination that gives this pose a timeless appeal. B tier. Shockingly, that's all of the Mr. Krabs art there is. Maybe the first one just needed that much blast radius. This brings us into the final stretch. We'll start with Plankton's equivalent to the main Mr. Krabs one. It's probably equally iconic, but I kinda just don't really have the same love in my heart for it. So I'm gonna say it's just a B tier. He looks so happy here that I almost want him to get away with it. It's interesting that there isn't like a SpongeBob chasing him pose to pair this with. A solid B tier. 2 words. Aura farming. A tier. This one is less good, I don't think his heart is really in it. D tier. I know it's kind of especially silly to make these minute distinctions with Plankton because his character design is so simple, but I think the fact that there isn't that much to work with is kind of what makes these like feast or famine. And this one is a feast. This is the real shit they go in the back to get for you when they know you're not a fed. It's way more expressive. The kind of like angular volume on these round shapes is super appealing to me. This guy's so evil. A tier. Plankton 6 is another stone cold classic. There's a chance that I would willingly try something from the chum bucket if he was standing on the table looking at me like this. I think that makes it an S tier. I think I kind of just don't love how his design translates to this like clean vector style, so that kind of gets in the way of how objectively good these are. B tier. Even though this one is in a pretty different style, I feel very similarly. Even if it's not my favorite, it's undeniably doing a very good job of conveying what it wants to. Another high B tier. Luckily, the last Plankton is obviously going in the Hall of Fame. It's nice to get both him and the bubbles. S tier. You can also see a weird early version of this pose on the packaging of some merchandise from 2000. Okay, get all this dumb shit nobody cares about out of the way. It's Gary time. We begin with a certified homie. S tier, no questions asked. The swirl and dots on his shell are both drawn super thin here for some reason, which I think is throwing me off. We have two versions of this one. The other one is like wall-eyed. I think this one's a little funnier, but they're both like B tiers. This one's kind of scary without a background or anything. He's making a Wallace and Gromit face. Oh yeah, fuck this. D tier. I'm a huge fan of this one in concept, but wish it was a little better. That purple they chose for the inside of his shell just kind of steals more of your attention than it should. Looking at the scene this one is based on, I like how his eyes look in the show quite a bit more. By just flattening out that one line, they lost a lot of the funny nuance of this expression. I think premise and execution even out to a low B tier. It's funny that these two are from the same scene. They're taking a hard stance that this was one of his finest moments. The shoes are perfect. A tier. Sometimes a pet is just so cute that you accept the slime. S tier. Even though I've taken steps to ensure that I see Gary every day, this is the most I've stopped to consider his design in like 10 years. And I'm glad I did. This was a wonderful exercise. I don't think I'm gonna cover every extra prop included in the toolkit, but special shouts out to all of these jellyfish, the record player, the kelp bar, and of course this guy. We'll toss that last one in S tier for good measure, and joining it is our final piece of the day, the group logo. I mean, come on. This is like an incredible crossover event of everything we've looked at in this video. Everyone is here. Repurposing that Mr. Krabs pose so he's holding it up? Genius. And with that, the 2002 SpongeBob Stock Art tier list is complete. The images we've seen today are basically synonymous with lame, low-effort merchandise, but I do think their ubiquity makes them something reasonable to be nostalgic for. It's possible a few of these might make it into the top, 5,000 images ever viewed in history. Probably not that high, but I'm sure if there was some way to measure that, the number would still be kind of impressive. Also, sorry if the audio quality was a little inconsistent in this video. I came down with the suds in the middle of recording, and I had to Frankenstein some pretty spaced out takes together. And the grains of sand rolling around in my mic are because I went to Goo Lagoon or something. This type of casual hangout video lives and dies by how pleasant it is to listen to, so if you watched all the way to the end, you're the type of person I wanted to make a good YouTube recommended pull for. In the same way a bag of hot chips is guaranteed fresh somehow, and I really hope that
What year is this?